It's like I might as well have sat at home, you know.
Yeah, I hear you, and that's the thing. Like I'm feeling motivated today. It's just but that's the thing. Like if I get in touch, I got in touch with like five people, and they answer the phone. I'm talking with them, and I'm learning about them, and I realize they're on disability or they're unemployed, and I can't do anything with the file. I can't get money on it, so I can't send it to verify the place of employment, send it to my client because they're not working. So I literally get nothing out of it, and it's just like five downers in a row, and I'm just like, ugh, you know.
Yeah.
I have no motivation to talk to anyone else and get the same thing.
Well, yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, you and I have been talking kind of regularly lately, and you've been kind of telling me about some of the different things that you're doing for skip tracing. While we wait for Valerie to come on, I'll go ahead and ask one of the questions, and you can kind of
Sure.
expound on it, and we'll get started.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, I think it would be kind of fun to talk about, and you did talk about this on the podcast, but it hasn't been released yet. So maybe talk a little bit about one of the questions is, have you ever skip traced a celebrity?
Uh, um, yeah, and of course, can't really say which one, but
Right.
I've skipped a couple sports players, and I've skipped. I'll tell you, it's kind of a funny story. I skipped a kind of a B-list celebrity. I say that in which I'm sure she's not watching, but it's it was I will say it was someone it was a star of the Young and Restless, which I do not watch, by the way, but it was a star of the Young and Restless, and it was a book tour deal, and it wasn't a judgment or anything. This was back when I was working for someone else, back in those days, and it was a $10,000 book deal. And now the problem with skipping a celebrity is they have people out there that hide their information. But the plus of skipping a celebrity is a lot of them are on Twitter, and a lot of them are posting their like daily habits. There's a lot of politicians that probably shouldn't be on Twitter. I'll not say which ones either, but I'm sure you. But that shouldn't be on there. But they're always posting their activities, and the this person said they were going over their mother's house to bake cookies or something. So I start looking at their relatives, and I find their mother. I call the mother on the phone. Now, this is when I was in collections, so I couldn't really pre-text, or I had to be straightforward with it, but I didn't have to say it right off the bat. So I spoke to the mother, and I said, "Oh, hey, is this person there?" And acting kind of like, just from my tone, acting kind of like I knew who she was, because I'm calling the house. I heard she's coming over to bake some cookies, and she's like, "Oh yeah, honey, 1 second." And she put her on the phone, and I say, "Hey, how you doing?" I introduce myself. I do the Fody or the mini Miranda, all that, and I say, look, I'm really sorry to get you at your mother's house. It's just I was speaking to your agent, and he hung up the phone on me twice, and it's about the 10th book deal, and I'm sure you would have paid this. And she says, "Oh my God, yeah, I would have paid it, blah blah." So she said, "I'm gonna call the agency right now. I'm gonna have them pay the bill on the spot. What's your direct line?" I gave it to her, and then I mentioned to her, I said, "Hey, I'm sure you get this all the time, but my mother is the biggest fan, or she considers herself your biggest fan, and we were talking about that." So we're actually sitting there and having this conversation, and she says, "Well, I'll tell you what, when I have this paid, what's the best address to send your mother a book? I'll personally sign it and say something like, to my biggest fan." I said, "That would be awesome." And sure enough, not only did she pay the $10,000 bill, or have her agency call in and pay it, like on the spot, but she also, about 2 days later, she was out in Cali or something, but by airmail, about 2 days later, my mother received a signed copy. And my mother says, "Oh," she was like, "Oh my God, you, how do you know her?" And I was like, through my business, I meet a lot of people." And she's like, "You met her?" And I was like, "Well, and not so much." She was like, "This says to Lauren, and my mother's name, my biggest fan, thank you for all your support," and blah, blah, and give her a signed hardcover copy. And my mother was ecstatic. And I think she still has it like framed or in plastic or something. But that was my experience on skip tracing a celebrity.
So tell me, like, you said that there's people out there watching, but like, have you ever heard of someone like trying to skip trace Donald Trump, or something like that, and getting in trouble? Or
I would assume that would lead to a lot of trouble, but yeah, I mean, there's the first agency I worked for. Someone looked up Halle Berry, and they got her cell. They got the information. I mean, I don't know how that conversation would play out, but they, "Hey, I watch you all the time, and you know, you want to go out, or I don't know, or maybe they would sell the information. But yeah, I mean, the police were at the door in about 20 minutes, and the company was shut down. This was a major law firm I worked at with 3 buildings. They were shut down for something like 3 weeks or 30 days. And it was Accurant, I believe. And they used that. Everyone had a login. They were paying Accurant, you know, tens of thousands of dollars a month. But that didn't matter because Accurant could then get sued. So they had to show that they took clear action against the law firm. I personally, some agencies do. I don't give anyone a login. And then I like all my people that work for me. They're good people. It's just, you know, unless they're a manager, I might occasionally give that person a login access, but it's a different kind of trust, you know, and it's right. Like, is this person going to do anything that it may not even be a celebrity. It may be an ex or something, but then something happens to that ex and I get audited on that file and I can't provide any kind of permissible usage. I'm screwed. Right. So I don't give anyone a login. It's dangerous because they could do something stupid.
Right. So let me ask you this, Eric. What happens when because I have some database search engines that I can go ahead and do a search on. They don't come in and check it in my house or anything like that. Why is it that some of them want to come look in your house or in your office and some of them don't?
I would say, and I hope I'm giving an accurate answer here, but I would say it comes down to the amount of usage. Like on your database ones that they don't audit your physical location, those ones, I'm assuming they don't give social information and whatnot.
Right, they redact a part of it, yeah.
Right, so the information is, and I don't know enough about the laws concerning that, the different privacy laws and everything to actually speak on the subject, but it's the amount of information you get. So like TLO, Accurate, Clear, you know, maybe IDI, whatever, those will use a company, usually TrendSource, a third-party company, to come out, and they made sure my computers were locked, my desks were locked, even though we keep everything electronically. I mean, but I pass that with flying colors. So as you mentioned in the last video, I got 4 cameras in my office. You know, we got Mac security here, paper shredder, everything. But it's really the amount of access you are exposed to, the amount of information and the amount of access you have that you're exposed to that kind of determines how well you're checked into, your background, your office, your licenses, all that jazz.
Okay. Yeah, because I know a lot of us are process servers and private investigators, and we're trying to figure out how we can find people. So it's really cool and a really cool experience to be able to have you and do this special event. Valerie, you know, is dolling herself up, and so when she comes on, we have high expectations when she comes on. But tell me, because one of the struggles I get in, and you know, I could go back to the list of questions here, and she can kind of we can backtrack so she can answer some of them. But what is this is one I know, and I don't know if you're going to share your favorite here, but I want to hear what you have to say about your best pretext persona, whichever one you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, that's the problem with that is, I mean, I'll try to word it in a way I can, but the problem with that, especially when you put it out there, is that method can become saturated. And it might not be now, it might not even be months from now, it might be a year from now, but we've created a really, really good pretext that is, you know, it's not putting anyone in fear. It's not pretending to be law enforcement or anything like that. It's ethical as much as it can be ethical. You know, some people could see it different ways, but from my point of view, it's ethical and it doesn't really cause anyone harm. But I mean, aside from later getting garnished by my clients, but you know what I mean? It's,
maybe this is a better way to ask it. What is your second favorite pretext tool?
I don't know. I always go with my favorite, but it works. I would say, but okay, let me try to put it this way. I would say, let me give you the methodology rather than the actual pretext.
Okay,
the way we do it is I explained this in the other video too. We'll do the quick skip online. We'll get a feel for who the person is. Check out their Facebook, even if we're not learning the information we want, even just their images, how they compose themselves in public. You know, if they're a contractor, for instance, I'll give you this. I won't give it for the average person, but I'll give the method for a contractor. When I go in and I see someone's a contractor with a company and I'm going in with a pretext, what I'll do in that case is I'll be like, say, Joe Schmo, the contractor, is I'll say, hey, Joe, how's it going? I got a referral over to you. I heard you were, I will always boost them. I heard that you were the guy to speak to about masonry, that you know that if anyone in the area knows something about this, it's you. So I always try to boost them up a little bit. And then I'll go in and say, I wasn't sure which masonry company you worked for, though. I have my boss, I always pass the buck, because if I say it's my boss and it's not me, if it's me, I'll have to know the address. I'll have to know specific details about the project. But if I kind of pass the buck a little bit to like my boss or my father or whomever, I don't have to know intimate details about the project that he might be asking me. I'll just say, my boss asked me I'm the admin assistant. My boss asked me to do a call for him to find a good contractor. And I asked around, and you're the guy, Joe. And hey, let me tell, and something I always point out to contractors, something that gets their mouth. I always point out, hey, Joe, I want to be straight with you, kind of, but cost isn't an issue. I don't really care what the cost is. I care about quality. But telling a contractor that will get their mouth moving every time. They will start sharing a plethora of, because someone calls my business, they say, hey, Eric, I need you to do this. I don't care about the cost. I'm there.
Yeah. You're on top of it.
So, Joe, you're the guy. My boss wanted me to contact you, and I asked around, and 2 different people said Joe's the guy. He knows everything about masonry, but my boss doesn't want to hire an individual. He wants to hire a company, and I'm more than willing to give you the credit for that. But what company do you work with? I want to give them a call. I want to make sure you're on the project. It's a big project. What company are you with? So that's my best pretext when it comes to a contractor. I always boost them a little bit. I'll make them feel good about themselves. I'll, going in with honey rather than vinegar is, I think, always the way to do it every single time. And I'll say good things, and then I'll drop the bomb and where do you work? But I'll learn a person. I'll learn. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I'll do a quick skip online. I'll check out Facebook. I'll check out Google. I'll see what kind of person they are, how they talk, if they're very professional, very formal, or they're just putting their entire life story and all their drama out on Facebook. Then I'll be a little looser. I'll come in a different way. But it's always a good idea, even if it's just images of the person, to do a quick online skip just to kind of get a feel for who you're talking to. That's the best I can give you on that one.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. No, you honestly are just killing it here. I'm taking a tally over here of your points. Okay. All right. You're winning.
Well, it's not a hard competition right now.
Okay. So I'll just say kind of what I do, and I'm not in no way an expert, but it might be helpful for some of the people that are listening that are also process servers. So from my point of view, I don't do a whole lot of place of employment searches to see where they work to do the wage garnishments. I do it because I want to physically find them. You know what I'm saying? And so what I've learned from you is to be able to, I'm completely comfortable now picking up the phone and just asking them, hi, come up with a persona that you're comfortable with. You work for so-and-so, or you work for something, maybe you work for State Farm Insurance and you're trying to sell them something, and, you're pretending to sell them whatever persona you want to come up with. Call them and say, hey, because, and you talked about this before, the familiar bridge, and we're going to get into that, I guess, with some of the questions coming up. But I think that's key, that they don't know, okay, so the recent one that I did, let me check, see if she's on here. Recent one that I did was a guy that I basically catfished, to create that familiar bridge. What I did was I used the Michael Bazel's website, where I can get into their Facebook and be able to find pictures and things they've commented on that has nothing to do with their page. And so it's almost like seeing them in the store. Now I'm walking alongside them and going, hey, what's up? They're not going to think why is this guy following me? He went there to buy meat or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So if you're catfishing someone, you could come in like you're a girl. For those that don't know, you're a girl pretending to be a girl, so that he will, so that you can try to schedule a meeting with that person.
Do that way too often.
Do you? Okay. Well, it's a lot of fun. And even if I didn't have to serve him, it was something that I was like, wow, this was way too much fun, to cap.
Yeah.
because they play into your hands like a, if you put in the time and effort on a Facebook page to create a person, basically, and we can get into that about, having a friend take photographs for you so that you're not stealing someone else's photos. I appreciate your feedback on that. You taught me about that. But being able to go in and have a conversation with them, and they're looking over your whole profile and you look like a real person to them.
Mike,
yeah.
Sorry. Speaking of that, I'm posting a link in the chat area. Speaking of that kind of the in-depth search, and I don't even cover all of it, but just some of it for my purposes. That in-depth search on Michael Bazel's site. That's that video I published on how to like really kind of break down the profile, and even if the profile is really private, to see comments that things that they've commented on and things that they've been tagged, even if it's not in their timeline. But that's about a 20-minute video on like really how to break it down, just to add a little context to it.
No, that's perfect. Actually, that's where I first heard about it, was watching your YouTube channel. I'd suggest everybody click on that link that he put in the chat so you can follow Eric and all the stuff. He's actually giving away a lot of free content, which is, if you're a skip tracer or you're a private investigator, you're a process server, and you want to be able to find people. I always thought, because I couldn't figure out how to get into the back end in Facebook to be able to find somebody, I always thought that it just doesn't happen. Like, you're not going to be able to do it. There's no other way unless you're some kind of hacker. No, you don't have to be a hacker. You can use what's called mapping, right? Eric, do you want to talk a little bit about mapping?
Well, I mean, the basis of the video is kind of almost subtitled. Someone didn't see the link, but you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you're not, sorry, I'm trying to walk and shoot.
I'll fix it.
All right. But if you're trying to if you're trying to see someone's Facebook profile and it's mainly private, or they choose what they share, they're just because, like, say my wife's profile, her profile is very private, and I've helped it be very private for her. Which I like. I rather her be the type of person that's actually not sharing her entire life on Facebook as people do. But the one thing is, people will tag her in images, and they'll tag her in posts. Some of those will be work posts and stuff, and work images, selfies at work with her or whatever. And this kind of, the whole basis of it kind of goes, or at least what I was teaching in the video, it kind of goes to, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So you can. Just because you're tagged, you could be tagged in a story or on a post or in a thing, like you just tagged me, Michael, in this video or this live stream. Now, just because I don't add that to my profile doesn't mean that it's not out there. So even if they don't see my friends list, if they don't see you, your username will convert to a numeric ID that is like a fingerprint. Everyone on Facebook will have their own ID. And you can use Michael Bazel's tool to convert it to a user ID. And there's other tools you can use too. Michael Bazel's tool happens to just be my favorite, but there's other ones out there. And you can use that. So what it'll do is it'll search all of Facebook everywhere for your unique ID where you were tagged in, say, a picture or a post. So even if it's not on your profile, if your friends tagged you in something and you didn't add it to your profile, you can still find it with that tool.
That's good. That's awesome. That's good stuff. I love using that tool because it makes it so simple. You put in their little hottie girl 1 2 3. You put that in there. It'll give you their little. I call it their Facebook social. Call it the fingerprint. Yeah, and just and then I take that and put it into. I love the comment one because, the guy is commenting on a sports post, about, or a political post. I could very easily go in there and say. I disagree, or I agree, or what's up, cutie, or whatever, you can start talking to them right there, and then they don't it doesn't set off any alarms. So I really like that. Do you have a link to Michael Bazel's page? I could probably look it up here.
I can, I'll actually give it to you over Facebook. I have it right.
Yeah.
But I'll give it to you over Facebook Messenger.
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. We definitely want to share that because the value of just kind of saving that, bookmarking that is going to be, oh, there we go. Ken or Christina Ryan, she posted it. So thank you.
Yeah, that's the one I gave you is more direct, but the one that she posted is actually good because it not only offers the Facebook thing, it offers a lot of other features as well, like different directories, and not just for Facebook, but other social networks as well. So you should definitely start with the main page like she posted and then go on to the Facebook one.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm glad you mentioned that because I went to the Facebook one only and I bookmarked it, and that's all I ever used. But when I went to the main website to try to find the Facebook one, I started finding the phone number tool and like all these other tools. I was just like, wow, like how did I not, so definitely explore that. Are there some other tips since we're talking about it? What are your other favorite pages on that Teller Techniques?
There's some that I started getting into the paste bin, and actually when Valerie comes on, she could probably give a little more content on that because I'm just starting to get into data dumps and such. But oh, there she is. But yeah, I mean that's something that I'll be exploring a little bit more, the paste bins. But the reverse video, the reverse image is one I'll use a lot because people will use cross their picture between LinkedIn and Facebook and different things. The username one is decent. I'd say on that one though, the Facebook is something I use. It's probably like the main one I use.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So I just you guys go check out that link. It's gonna give you a lot of value
there, and there's a reason why.
Good stuff. So I want to just welcome Valerie McGilvery, and I want to welcome Eric. And you did not disappoint. So thank you for showing up and looking amazing.
Well, thanks.
Awesome. So if you want to go ahead, we could just dive right into it. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm awake.
Valerie, I don't know if you've met Eric. Eric, this is Valerie, Eric.
We chatted a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
She's a fan, Eric. You hear that?
Well,
so,
I follow all of her stuff too, so.
Good. You know what? I've noticed that when people have, they have pride in their profession, a lot of times I know me, myself, I'm always looking at all the other process servers and what they're doing. And so it makes a lot of sense, keep up with those that are in your same industry because you're going to learn. That's what this is, positive collaboration. So just a couple of little ground rules. We're not going to go into it too crazy, but we don't want any rants, okay? Because we have a list of questions. So we're going to go into 60-second answers, and we'll just go back and forth. The goal here, you guys, is to provide an insane amount of value. We're going to drop value bombs raining down galore, okay? We're going to try to cut it at 50 minutes. That'll be about 6:30 my time. If you guys have to go earlier, then that works. Then that's okay. You just let me know. No offend. I won't be offended.
You're good. You're good.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and dive right into it. This is going live on Facebook too. If you guys share it, if you guys are watching on Facebook, you can go in on here and actually share it. And once we're done, I'm actually going to create it as a production on PSD University so people can go and watch it, and we can boost it and get lots of people. So at the end of this, if you guys stay to the very end, there's going to be a special gift for you. Okay? So you're stuck with us. Okay. Who wants to go first?
I'm ready. Just let me know when I should go.
Oh, the long sigh. Okay. All right, we're going to dive into it. So we'll go Valerie first, since Eric has had his time here in the beginning here. So Valerie, what is your best trick for finding a place of employment?
Well, currently, my best trick absolutely is the credit bureaus. My skips are actively, a good percentage of them, at least 30%, are trying to move or moving, and they're also looking for another vehicle to buy. So I'm looking for their new inquiries, and some of those inquiries actually put the new information on their credit bureau, which of course is the new employer. And if it's not there and I know that they applied for credit with a specific place, I will usually contact that legal office and find out what I need to do to get a copy of their credit application so I can get the employer off of it. So if you're doing judgment enforcement, it's real easy. You just subpoena with the existing case and to get that information. And then Eric probably knows even more than that. I've done that maybe a total of 10 times in my life. That's probably something that Eric does a lot.
Yeah, let's turn it over to Eric. Thanks, Valerie. The same question to you.
I have used those methods and I think what the good thing here is this is two different perspectives and with in two different types of skips, like the types of people. With my types, a lot of them are job hoppers, a lot. So the credit bureaus, I've used them, but for my purpose, for my skips, they don't really have a lot of value because these people, they'll get garnished, they'll jump to their next job and they'll just keep repeating that. What I prefer to use is the social networks because like active tracking and use the techniques we were speaking of before, the mapping and whatnot. But these are people that generally, that if it was on the credit bureau, I think a lot of my clients have access to that. So a lot of the attorney's offices have access to that. So for me, sometimes we'll get something, but generally we have to go where our clients are not going. And for our types of skips, generally it's the active tracking on social networks.
Yeah, my clients don't have credit bureaus.
What was that?
My clients do not use credit bureaus. Yeah, I'm
Great.
finding.
Great. Okay, next question. How do you find somebody if all you have is a license plate number and a car registered in California?
Would you like the first one?
Yeah, let's start with Eric on that one.
Well, let me actually just give one piece of thing on the last question. It's always really, really important to find out what your clients have access to what your clients know. Be sitting there, you want to start off in a different way. So that's the only thing I want to add to the last one. Always find out what your client, what your new client typically does in the course of a skip.
And ask for that. Ask for the documentation because they'll give you everything that they have most of the time.
For this question, I mean, you can do a search with a vendor on TLO, on Accurant or whatever, and do a reverse on that plate and information. But honestly, that's not really my forte. And I have a feeling it's more Valerie's forte than mine when it comes to the plates and all that. So I can't really accurately, I can't really give a great answer to that one.
So specifically for the state of California, not very many entities are allowed to have access, but process servers and private investigators do have access to the California DMV. And I have in the past been able to go to someone and say, okay, I have this crazy situation. I need to figure out where this tag goes to. And it's typically not for a repossession. It's another reason. It's like a vehicle that backed into somebody else's car, and it didn't happen in the state of California, and they have no way to figure out whose it is, and law enforcement hasn't been responding. So I've gone to the California PI, and then obviously there is MV Track, which is M as in Mary, V as in Victor, and then TRAC. And I'm not sure if it's TRACK or just TRAC. I've been messing that one up for years, but they sell a historical on their license plates hits for about $150. DRN used to sell it for $7. They've gone up. If you're just an individual and you want to buy a historical tag hits off of a license plate anywhere in the US that allows them to compile and maintain a database of historical license plate scans, they'll have it. And then there are a few other smaller companies. One of them is Plate Locate, which is very strong in Texas and is expanding throughout the US. So they also have a very affordable solution for getting tag historicals. So, so for figuring out where someone is going to be, or if you're trying to look for a history of where they've been, knowing that these repo companies, and I don't know what's wrong with my dog. She's driving me nuts again. She's begging outside, so I apologize.
You need that bark collar.
She's got it on her. It doesn't stop her from whining.
Oh, that's
Yeah, so you know, you can go back and look for the historicals in time of day and the location being you know, like a hospital. I figured out that people worked at hospitals, specific buildings, office buildings, even though I didn't know where they worked. I knew what building, and then uh boots on the ground was able to finish and confirm what office they were walking into every day to go to work.
all right.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. And you know, I added California because I know that it's a pain here in California with DMV. You got to go jump through a bunch of hoops, but it's possible.
There's quite a few states. There's a few states, you know.
Okay, so this next question, we'll go to Valerie. We'll just go back and forth. This next question, we'll start with you, Valerie, and it's one that I'm very interested in. I've done a couple searches, and I don't know if I'm using the wrong search, but it's not really working. How would you find somebody if all you had was a photograph, no name, date of birth, or address, or any of that, just a photograph?
Well, I would have to use some of the search reverse tools for images online, and like 10i and Google Images. I know there are a few others that work off of the 10i API. They're probably only going to get you photographs like it with the same color and shading and like face sizes, and not that actual photograph.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know, studying the images, I mean, the things in the background of the images help. I had a photograph of someone that was associated with a bond jump, and I didn't know who the guy was, but I knew the photograph was taken in a hotel room, and it was one of the hotel chains, like a Sheraton or what have you, that uses unique carpet all throughout the hotel, and they don't use that same carpet pattern in any other hotel in the world. So I took the image and I started in the most popular tourist cities, one being Las Vegas, which was most likely where this jump was, and went through all of the Marriott, Sheratons in Las Vegas and all the casinos, you know, the big tourist cities, and found it. Actually, one of the other clues that was a magazine on the table was JWM, and JW Marriott just began to publish their own magazine to cater to their high-end clientele. And I didn't know. I put that photograph in a PI group and said, okay, help me. What hotel is this? One guy immediately in 10 seconds said, that's Marriott. And there's their new magazine on the coffee table in front of the guy. So going back through all of the Marriott Yelp photographs, found the exact hotel that he stayed in. And then, of course, I had the date where it was posted. And of course, we can't get metadata off of any social media. The real hope of reversing an image into any of the image databases is to try to find a newspaper or someone's blog where they have not stripped out metadata, and you actually get location, date, time, camera information off the photograph. And while you think it's very rare, blogging is the wave of today and the future, and metadata happens. I mean, you'll be able to find it in these off social media images.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Valerie. That's some great value. Eric, we'll turn it over to Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a pretty comprehensive answer. I think that pretty much covered it well. I would say now, when you said a photograph, if you're just talking about a photograph, then the metadata, well, any kind of photograph, then metadata is the way to go. If you have a client or you have someone that sends it to you from their phone, for instance, they have location turned on, included in the metadata is the EXIF data, and and pretty much the same thing she said, where you can sometimes get camera information. You can almost always get that unless they stripped it, or you can get the location. You plug it into Google Maps, you can get pretty much their exact location, and just the background information. I can't think of one offhand, but I have had cases like that where or actually I had one on Facebook where it wasn't really a photographer, it wasn't really an image, but we were trying to figure out their place of employment. And this was just very recently, and it was I think a few days ago, and it was we knew they worked in a garage. We were scouring their Facebook. We tried to find, I was jumping in. It was almost an office endeavor where we all kind of jumped in and we were racking our brains. We looked at the background images where the person posted selfies at work, and we looked at the background images, and we saw some previous businesses. Now, it was at night, so it's kind of like neon signs and whatnot, but we compared those to the Google images during the day, like Google Street View, and we found, we ended up finding a couple of different garages. We called there and asked about the person. Oh, hey, is this person working today? And on the second one, we found the right one. So a lot of it'll come down to background images. It'll come down to those other details that aren't necessarily the details of the person. But other than that, you can, as she said, you can use, is it like PickEye or something? And it's, I use .google.com. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And I'll just go that route. I won't often get cases like that though. So it's not usually something I do very often.
You're looking for license plates, street numbers behind them, like on the, like if someone's taking a picture of their kids outside, look for license plates that are parked across the street numbers on the curb, street numbers on the mailbox, unique things that are in someone's yard across. If it's an apartment complex, notice the trim, the colors, any unique detail like about the rain gutters or parking blocks being out of place, or, you know, old things that are rotting away, and go and look in, starting with the area where you know that they have been living, because traditionally people with kids stay in the same area of town. I mean, even if Houston is as big as it is, they do try to stay in the same school district. And then I go look at all the apartment complexes and try to match the sighting with what's online.
And there's the other thing too, and I won't get into the laws, this kind of gray line, but it's there's the other thing of you know, if you have cars in the background too, you can, you know, at least from a method standpoint, you should be able to reverse those plates, find out locations as well. Again, there's going to be different permissible purpose laws and whatnot that doesn't even matter getting into, but that's something one could do. They could take the plates and they could, you know, specifically find out at least where that picture was taken, if that's in the, but it all comes back down to the minute details, as she was saying.
That's good. That's good stuff. So it was Chris Cloud actually commented. He said, I found a guy's POE a couple days ago because a friend tagged him in a picture in front of an egg roll place he works at. I Googled all of them in the area and did a street view till I found the check cashing place next door. I mean, you know, sometimes that's what you have to do. You just dig in. So good stuff. We'll move on to the next one. We got a lot of questions here. Whose turn is it?
Mine, I think.
That's my job, I think. Okay.
Yeah, it's your job, Michael.
Okay, so Eric already asked this one, Valerie, or answered this one, but what is your favorite pretext persona? We talked about the general way of creating a familiar bridge and things like that. So Eric, you okay passing that on to Valerie?
Yeah, and I might give a follow-up, but yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite pretext personality persona?
Well, you know, I obviously sound like a white woman on the phone, so I pretty much stick to that. Although I can lean, I'm good at mirroring and idiolect. I lived in Massachusetts as a teenager, and I was born and raised in Houston, which is actually a metropolitan city. And a lot of people here, you can't figure out what they're, you know, where they're from. It all is kind of a big mix. But my persona is just, you know, me. Actually, in repossessions and debt collection, when we contact a debtor, we're not allowed to use any other name but our own. So I don't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't. I've never been sued, and I'm always real nice to people. So if I choose to not use my real name, I have to make sure I'm being very ultra nice to someone and very motherly, and tell them, well, I'll do anything I can to help you. because I'm calling to take their car away from them.
Yeah.
They'll pay their car note because I called them. I get paid the same, so it doesn't matter to me if they pay or surrender.
Well,
And then but yeah, I mean, that's it. That's what I do. It's all super ultra nice and kind. And I also know that a lot of it's possible repossessors and their lien holder were very rude to them before me, and that I have an advantage for being very, very nice. And usually it happens that way. They have to tell me their story. And after they're done telling me the story, I'm rewarded with a
Right.
car or a paycheck.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. Eric, you had a follow up?
Yeah, I mean, that's generally the way I will go into it. It's, as I mentioned, we like to kind of get a feel, and you got to be aware of who you are. I sound like a white guy, I have, different personas in my office, and they sound different ethnicities. And I might assign, accounts to them where, they sound different. Well, put it this way, my wife works in at Harvard and at a bank, and she will get not just the Hispanic, she's Dominican, and she won't just get the Hispanic, but she'll get pretty much all non-white individuals they'll assign to her for mortgages. But people open up more to her, even East Indian, whatever, people will open up more to her just because she's not white. But you got to know who you are. You got to know how you relate to the person. I'll see on Facebook, like, even if I'm, like I said earlier, even if I'm just looking at images or there's no POE details on their Facebook, but you see how they present themselves in everyday life, because Facebook is, a lot of people, it's their journals. So you see how they present themselves, you see how they act, and it kind of gives you, as Valerie mentioned about mirroring, you got to mirror the person. And a lot of police, they'll mirror their victim's statement. So the person, if I have someone on the other end of the phone, and they're talking normally, but normal for them is dropping the F-bomb every other word, I won't exactly mirror that, but I won't act stiff either, like, all professional or whatever. I'll be like, oh, those some of those employers, they're off their kill. They just, but I'll drop down the intelligence of my voice or my tone, maybe, and my words. I'll their level. So that's why I like to do a quick skip online first. I like to just kind of get a feel for who I'm talking to, and that'll help for them, and that'll help. It's all, you got to learn NLP, the neuro linguistic programming. You got to learn how to talk to people, and mirroring is a huge thing. It's really gonna, even if you don't know what you're talking about, my associates will listen to me on a daily basis, and they'll say, Eric, you contradicted yourself like 3 times talking to that person. And I tell them, yeah, but it's not really the words I'm saying. It's not really that I know what I'm talking about. It's more that I'm mirroring the person, I'm meeting them on their level. My responses are catered to their responses. And, and as Valerie said, sometimes you just need to put them on your couch, metaphorically speaking. You just need to put them there. You need to listen to them. Once they get out what they need to get out, then information will start flowing your way.
Mm-hmm. So. They're more inclined to get into the negotiation stage. And I don't think that the 8 stages of grieving is irrelevant in these situations where you contact someone and you're getting money or a thing from them. Like, I'm typically after a vehicle and Eric is after money. The 8 stages of grieving is that psychological breakdown of getting to the end, and negotiation is part of those stages. And so while not every single stage of grieving applies to what we do for a living, it's just a good thing to read and understand, so the psychology behind someone who's in the process of having a situation where they have to let something go, because it's indeed going to change their way of life. And they know they can't go forever with avoiding the situation of facing us or our clients. So
they want to make sure they get out their piece. They're like, why got into the situation. And a lot of people in a lot of different industries won't give them the chance. They just want to dive right into it. You owe this, you need to do this, you need to do that. You need to give the person a chance to vent, a person a chance to explain why they're not the bad person, which they're not. but to defend themselves and kind of say why they got into the situation. Sometimes, depending on what angle you're going in, you need to give a person a chance to say their piece. You give them that chance, usually they'll start working with you.
That's
That's
right.
good.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
I was going to say
well,
one other thing before you move away from that. And a lot of the books that teach you how to be a good salesman teach mirroring. And so because collecting a debt is literally selling somebody on the idea that they need to take care of this so that they can have peace. Maybe peace is the hard sell, and you're not trying to sell them a car, right? You're selling them peace of mind and the piece that you're not going to garnish their entire bank account if they agree to make payments or whatever the deal is. But those sales books are really good. I started reading those when I was like about 18 years old. And
wow.
a lot of the things that I use in my work today are things that I learned back then from the old sales books. So they're relevant.
Well,
And
Eric was actually saying just the other day when I was talking to him, he goes, some of his best people were salespeople. So it's kind of funny. That's why it's good to get two different perspectives in the skip tracing world. You guys are kind of in different parts of the world when it comes to your clientele. And so it's nice to bounce those off. Eric, did you have a follow-up?
No, I'm ready for the next question.
Okay. So what is what service do you guys use to record phone calls?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't tell anybody first.
We
This
look
is
for
my
you.
first dual host. Okay, give me a break.
I use Arbite. I'm really happy with them. I actually just I was using a couple other services. I think I don't remember the name of the last one, but they were costing me a lot of money. Arbite actually saved. I don't want to sound like a promoter here. I'm not with the company or anything, but they I'm really happy with them. They're smaller than some of the other big companies, but it saved me a lot of money, and they record everything. And I don't know if I have unlimited storage, but I haven't had a problem with any storage, and we're on the phone all the time, all day long. We're on the phone, or we should be. So, but I use them, and it's part of the phone service. I can switch between the numbers because you want to use kind of the same number in the area you're calling. They're more likely to pick up. But I'm very, very happy with them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So do you have a follow-up, Valerie?
So because I'm a one-person rodeo, I don't use a service. I run all my calls through a Google Voice account that automatically records, and then I make a connecting outgoing call. So I call my cell phone. I mean, I use my cell phone and call a toll-free number, and then call my Google Voice number, which kicks in recording automatically.
That's awesome.
So
I actually just started using Google Voice, and I found out it was free. The one number is free, and I put that on my business card. So when I go to do a delivery, people will call that number, and it's a totally different voicemail, which is kind of nice. So
it is.
Good stuff. Okay, we'll move on to the next one here. What determines the amount of money you charge for a particular skip trace? On our call before on the mastermind, we heard some different amounts people charge from 75 to 125. I know someone that charges 25. Some people charge no fine, no fee. We'll start with Valerie on this one.
Okay, because I'm primarily repossessions, I start at 200, and that's contingent on a debtor paying or a vehicle getting repossessed.
So that's kind of a package deal then.
Trade the car in, or whatever I get them to do to zero out the account, and my client's happy, I get paid. So it starts at 200, and then it goes up to about 600. And of course, I charge a lot more, like in the thousands, for trucks and heavy equipment, tractor trucks.
Wow.
Fugitive recovery, I typically make people pay in advance, and it starts at 800. It's a lot more work, and it's like I've been forced to stay awake for like 48 hours straight working with people who work in the field, and because of that, I make them pay up front, and then it's a percentage, and then so it just depends on what it is. But if it's something like that, and it's not typically just a debt, if it's just a debt like a judgment or a debt collection for a hot check or a business to business debt or a business incurred debt, it's 40% of the debt, 40% of what I collect.
Okay, so you're kind of running things. Your clientele and the way that you're running it is very much of a package. You're very much a part of the process. So you've kind of attached your wages in a similar fashion.
Yeah, and it's that a lot of the finance company clients are not able to pay more. So, and of course I have more volume, I get more assignments and I cycle through them kind of quickly. They're easier to get, people will go trade in a vehicle if they have equity, and I can tell them, let's talk about your equity and let's find a place where you can trade it in. That way you don't lose anything, and then go that route. Or, after kind of giving a few good minutes of studying the situation and what the paper is going to be like. But yeah, that starts with profiling the deal, whatever deal it is, So, and because I do everything does have a different, thing that I charge. And then there's people who just want a credit report, and then I'll just charge them for a credit report. That's very minimal work. So
yeah. Okay. Good. Good stuff. So Eric, how much? Same question to you.
Basically, it's sorry, I'm just replying to something. Sorry about that. But okay, so basically, we do places of employment. We just under some light pressure, we raised our rates, and we're from 50 to 75 for an employment located verification, no hit, no fee. We raised because initially I was charging lower prices, but I wanted to try to charge lower prices to kind of get a lot of business, become kind of an authority in the industry, to get known. And now I think I've achieved what I was looking for. So
definitely.
Now I charge 75 for places of employment, which apparently is still fairly low compared to some of my competitors. But we charge 75 for that, and that's our primary service. And of course, as I mentioned before, we have to stick within the collection arena. So it's places of employment in regards to a judgment, for instance. But it's no hit, no fee. We do allow our clients to have certain exclusions. Like some of our clients say, hey, self-employed is okay if it's a commercial location or they have employees, they have assets, but not like a lawnmower, not like a web designer or something out of his house type thing. I want to make sure my clients can achieve garnishment. I don't guarantee it, but I want to make sure, my clients garnish money. They get their residual income. They're happy. They stay with me. But I send them a lot of stuff that I'm just kind of looking out for myself. I'm getting paid on, but they're not really making money. I want long-term clients, and that's how you build that in my eyes. So you make sure your clients are happy, you make sure they're making money, but I don't guarantee, at least for my side of the business, I don't guarantee that they can do that. And now we occasionally do as well. We don't really focus on it much, but we occasionally do commercial collections. And like you mentioned, I charge 40% for that. And then we don't really, a lot of this is through referrals, but once in a while we do corporate due diligence, and due diligence in the way of not necessarily background checks, although, I have other companies that sometimes partner with us and we can offer that as a bundle. But we do corporate due diligence, and you'll see a lot of this. I was reading something in the Times where I think it was the New York Times, they let someone go because of some Twitter post they made back in the day. But to really do a full social media breakdown and to see how someone has conducted themselves in the past, to see how someone might conduct themselves in the future. So we do some corporate due diligence, and those packets will vary anywhere from, depending on the size of the company. For a really small company, maybe $500, although a really small company typically won't hire us. And then to a medium-sized, a larger-sized company, between $1,500 and $3,000. But that's not the bulk of those. Come in, a few times a year. Pretty much, we focus on the places of employment. Those are $75, no hit, no fee.
That's good stuff. So when you both of you guys, when someone calls and you're thinking about letting them hire your services, offering your services to them, a big part of it is vetting them. Would you agree with that? Like vetting Absolutely. Them are they going to be worth your time? And so how do you vet the customer? We'll
Well,
start with Eric.
okay. I I want to make sure, for one, that they are who they say they are. I want to make sure that my contracts state with my clients that I can vet them at any point in time during the contract. I can run a criminal. I can whatever. It gives me full authority to vet them at any point in time. But I want to see a few of their judgments. I want the media on it. Like, and for those that don't know the background, I want to see copies of the judgments. I want to make sure that not just running skips on whatever pops in their head. I want to make sure that is legit. I want to make sure they're a legit company, that they've been doing this for a little while, that they're not a company that's gonna play fast and loose, because we're running this through our databases. So I want to make sure they're legit. And as for what you were saying about make sure it's worth our time, I give them a verbal interview, over the phone. I want to make sure their files are, if they're going to be sending us, let me put it this way. I had one client where she sent us the back end of like files that no skip tracer would want. Now we'll get portfolios where it's a mixed bag of ages, and that's what I prefer. I prefer people in their 20s to 50s maybe. But we got files from this lady. Her company was legit, but we're usually the last step on the waterfall process. They put it through the work number, they put it through various other companies, and we're kind of the last step to achieve what the other companies couldn't. And we basically we want to make sure it's a mixed bag of ages, maybe a geographic range too sometimes, but this lady was sending us all files that were like all 60 years old and over. Most of it were 70-year-olds. And I had a conversation with her after we got a batch of 100, and we started going through it, and we found some stuff. Some people were working even at that age, and they were working, but as we're no hit, no fee, we were really spinning our wheels, and we're not getting paid for our time. And what she says, you're getting paid to work these skips. You're getting paid. And I said, no, ma'am. I said, we're not getting paid. We're getting paid to locate employments and verify them. We're not getting paid. If you want to pay us hourly to work the skips, I can definitely assign some people to your files, pay them hourly, take a cut off of it. But you're not paying us to work the files. You're paying us to find employments and verify it so you can issue garnishments on them. And that's the thing. You want to make sure, and we're a company that deals with a bulk amount of files. Like I said, we have 1,000 in the system at any given time. So we want to make sure that we're profiting off what we're doing, and we're not spinning our wheels working the files, because working the files isn't really, we're not getting paid to work the files. We're getting paid to find and verify. So we want to make sure that their files are profitable to us.
That's good. You got to know your own business. And I think a lot of what you said has to do with knowing your business and knowing the different ways that, leveraging your business and how you're going to make money. I mean, we can't just work for free. Like that's. That's right.
I'm sorry, Michael, you for just 60.
I think you muted too early.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just apologizing. I need like 60 seconds or a minute.
You're fine. Go ahead and mute. I'll pass it over to Valerie, and then we'll come back.
So what was the question again?
So the question was, how do you vet your customer?
Oh, well, all of my clients are lien holders on the vehicles that they give me to repossess. And then for a judgment, I do things a little differently with judgment owners. I do a contract that gives me a percentage of the judgment that I collect. And I actually file a document with the court that says I own 40% of the debt. So I don't have to worry about that judgment owner conveniently forgetting to pay me, because all the collections go through the court. So when I find money, a garnishment, I'll get good garnishable job or assets to take, and I'm filing the paperwork and I'm paying filing fees that all go back into the case. The court actually disperses funds. They'll disperse 40% of it to me, or whatever my percentage is. And then the rest.
They mail it to you? They mail you a check?
Absolutely.
40%. So hold on a minute. I might be getting into this.
It might be an and check, which I've only happened one time in the state of Tennessee. and I had to do some, footwork to get the check signed because it has to go in one person or another's account. But basically that's it. Yeah.
Because that's a lot of money. And if you watch The Profit or you're into different buying businesses of any kind, that type of thing, the 40% is quite a bit considering it was never your debt, but you're helping them get that money back. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So, but
when I own 40% of it, I'm a 40% owner creditor. Even if I didn't suffer the loss, a lot of paper sits in small claims court that's uncollectible because people don't have the money to hire private investigators or people who do asset searching to get their judgments collected. They just lose. And they don't know, like if it's a judgment against a contractor, they don't know to go look for the bond for the job and that they can collect it on the bond. I go and look for those judgments first, and then I buy the judgment, and then I send the judgment. I go to the permit office, look for the bond that was on file, and then send the judgment to the bond company and collect a check like in 30 days.
That's a good business model. I like it.
A lot of studying to find that paper, but it's out there. They exist.
That's a good business model. So Eric, she was just talking about taking a percentage of the debt when you collect it, and you and I talked about that before too. Debt buying essentially is what you're doing, right? When you take that on.
Yeah, essentially. And Michael, the video was I thought it was going to be like 8 to 9, so I have 20 minutes max. Just to let you know.
Left. Okay.
Yep.
All right, that works actually. So. So let's move on to the next question, and let's just kind of move quickly to, and just imagine you don't know a lot about skip tracing and you just want to know practical, tangible things, and we'll keep the stories to a minimum, even though I love the stories. Okay. We come on and we'll do a whole nother segment. But you and I talked a little bit, all you guys talked a little bit about what's coming up. We have a free course that's going to come out. It's going to be a really short course. It's going to talk about a lot of the things that we're talking about now. And if you stay to the end of this, you guys can get access to that free course by going to psduniversity.com and just signing up. The landing page is all ready. They're right at the top. So, all right, let's move right into it. Valerie, this question will start with you.
Okay.
When you find a skip, how much information do you disclose to the customer? Because, we're all worried about someone getting the information and going and killing their ex-husband or something crazy.
None. It's none of their business how I find a skip, how I go about getting it done. I'll tell them I made contact and that they say they're going to pay, or I located the vehicle and I'm working on getting it picked up at the extent because I have had my skip trace information taken from me, possession company, and I didn't get paid. So I learned the hard way. Skip trace work is my proprietary business. It's my proprietary information. I spend money to get it. I use my expertise and the skill that I've taken so many years to perfect. So that's what they pay me for, and it's none of their business.
So let's say, we'll turn it over to Eric, and then okay, I got a notification here. Okay, Eric, we'll turn it over to you. What kind of information do you redact? Do you give?
I take it from a different approach, and this just might be because I'm in a different industry, but after I've vetted my clients and built a pretty good working relationship with them, it won't really come down to that. It'll come down to, okay, so say we find banking information. Now, we don't really do too much in the banking industry. We don't have access to those databases so much, but occasionally some Yahoo will post on Facebook, they're checking into their bank to deposit a check, and it's a long wait or whatever. So, that's something we can use. That's something I won't give to my client. I will upsell my client on. When it comes to one of the things we do, when we do a verification for our clients, I will very often include bonus information for our clients. Or what I call bonus information. So I won't give them just the place of employment. Oftentimes in the course of the skip, I will find the person's cell, I'll find maybe a new address for them or whatever little details like that, a Facebook link, something like that. I'll include to my client at no charge. And my clients have come to, really appreciate that. I think it goes a long way with the clients, but I'll include that information at no charge. So they'll get the person's, whatever information I start off with, the social, the case number, the subject's name, maybe the subject's AKA if they're going under a different last name now. I think that's valuable to my clients. Subject's cell phone, subject's Facebook link maybe. And then the business information, how I verified it, spoke to Casey in payroll, verified by name and social, and the position title if I have it. So, but I'll give that extra information to the client. And like I said, maybe it's just a different industry, but I haven't really had any problems. And it's just, like I said, I think it's something my clients really come to appreciate. And it really, for me, it builds that long-term. And I think for them, it builds that long-term relationship with the clientele that I have. And again, we're talking mainly law firms and whatnot that'll use that information to, garnish wages, but also to help track the person in the future. So
that's awesome.
Reservations. There is information that I won't include. If I speak to an ex-wife, for example, and I've spoken to some that are like battered ex-wives, and they've been more than happy to, and I'll be straight. We were hired to do this, and I'll just be, because then they'll give me more information, but I'll go in and, they ask if or an ex-wife or even an ex-employer, they'll ask for the information to be off the record. One thing I always ask ex-employers is, I start off the conversation, I just throw it in there and say, hey, off the record, you don't by any chance know where they went off to since they were working here. Most of the time they won't tell me or they won't know, but sometimes they will tell me, and it's a 5-second question, so I'll ask for that. But if I say off the record, I do mean off the record. So I will put obtained information from redacted in my verification to the client. Or if it's the ex-wife and I suddenly get her number and I call her and I get all this information, but she says, please don't tell anyone it's me, that's going to be redacted. If, you're only as strong as your word. So if I put that in, if someone specifically asks for it to be off the record, then it'll be off the record. My client doesn't need that. So if someone wants to be off the record, then it'll be off the record.
That's good.
I like that.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
good.
give updates like that. And about vetting my vetters, well, obviously they have to be a lien holder or be the person who's owed the debt, and that's verifiable.
So they're qualified by that. Yeah, that's good. So when you're a process server, just for people out there that are kind of thinking, well, how does that really apply to me? Well, as a process server, you're going to get people that, maybe you have a husband and wife, and the husband has the children, and the wife wants to know, or vice versa, and the wife wants to know where her children are. And so it really starts to become a little bit more pressurized when you're like, there's more pressure on you to provide that information, because she wants to go see her kids, even though the court may have told her to stay away, and you just don't get involved. They're going to see it on the proof of service, unless it's some kind of a child support case where they require it to get redacted. They're going to see where you served it on the proof, but that is not your liability. They're going to find that from the court, pull their case from the court, and they're going to find it there. They're not going to find it through you. So,
just
all right.
Blue Moon, and the dentist who got killed by his estranged wife, because Blue Moon's private investigator called the client, the dentist wife, from a cell phone in the parking lot of the hotel, and she made a beeline over there with his daughter in the car and ran him over in the parking lot and killed him.
Oh my gosh.
That happened in Houston, and she just got out of prison.
Oh my goodness.
So that's Blue Moon.
So I know Eric's got to go here pretty quick, so we got a few more questions. I mean, there's a ton more questions. I think we might try to do this again if you guys are up for it.
Sure.
Okay, so let's do this one. We'll skip that one. So aside from more serious vendors like Accurate, TLO, Clear, what are some of your favorite web-based tools for getting data on someone? Start with Eric.
Any kind of meta search is good. Any kind of tool that allows you to search across platforms. Basically, because of the level of the amount of skips that we have come in the office, and what we were talking about before was a lot of it comes down to, and this is probably the second biggest thing that I teach my associates. This is where they're either going to be earning $5 an hour with me, or they're going to be earning $20 an hour with me. Is it comes down to time management. So anything. You can spend all day on a skip just poring over the online data. So really any kind of tool that allows you to search over multiple platforms, and I may have, the TLO, I may have access to Accurant and some other things over my, through my company, but honestly, I still have Intellius, I still have Truthfinder and Spokio in my back pocket as well, that allows you to search over multiple platforms. Just any kind of cross-platform search. We utilize even the little ones that just we run it through. But the important thing is, and I think this is good for a lot of viewers too. The important thing is you can certainly go off into other tools, and like I said, you could be spending all day on that. But the important thing is to choose a few main tools that you like, just to start with. You can always explore other things on a file later, but to choose, like we personally love Indeed to search for people, to search for their job. We love Facebook, and we use the tools we spoke of earlier, the Intel Techniques with Michael Bazell and things like that. But we really love a few specific tools like that, to Google, Facebook, Indeed, to really do a quick skip. Then we get into the calling, and then we move on, and we might go back to it. But it all comes down to time management, and you want to be careful on the tools. You want to try a few different tools. Try Intellius, try Truthfinder. It's going to change for your purposes, whatever your end result, whatever your conclusion is that you're trying to get to, whether it's a good address to serve or it's a POE or whatever it be. Spend a few dollars, try a few tools. It's hard to say what the best one is, but because it really comes down to what you're going after, the information that you're going after. So do some free trials, explore some tools. I get asked that about once a week on my Skip Tracers forum on Facebook. What's the best thing? Well, where are you coming from? Are you a realtor? Properties, and are you foreclosed properties? Are you going after POEs? Are you a debt collector, a repo? Try a few things out. There's no, I don't think there's a really good answer. It really depends on what your purpose is. So.
That's right. Understanding the whole time management side of it. I love that. I actually have a master book here that basically lines out my day by 45 minutes, 50 minutes.
You have to do that, because my associates, the ones that fail in my office, the ones that I let go a couple of days just because are the ones that don't listen to me, are the ones that they want us. I hired a PI for instance, and I typically stay away from hiring PIs just because that PI, she was awesome, and she was awesome over the phone. Maybe even better than me. I don't like to say that, but she was magnificent over the phone. The problem is that she was used to working cases that maybe somewhere along Valerie's range of charges on when we're going, that she could spend all day on a case. Well, the cases that we have here, I pay my, I usually pay my associates either half my fee or 1/3 my fee, what I'm getting from my clients. So, but if they're spending all day on a case, they're going to end up walking out of my office with earning like $5, $6, $7 an hour. And that's going to be crap. It's going to be crap for me. It's going to hopefully be crap for them. I want them to be earning $15, $20 an hour with me. I want them to love coming to work and be happy. They're not going to do that unless they're practicing really, really good time management skills. So we'll teach the skip tracing to them, and we'll teach the techniques and how to act over the phone and psychology and this and that. But the biggest thing I probably teach is time management. And it's really, really important.
That's awesome. Same question to you, Valerie. How do you, what are some of your favorite web-based tools other than the main skip tracing platforms?
That'sthem.com, PIPL API, which I learned about on Bazell's website. And so I put up the PIPL API script on a back page on the daily skip, and I use it. What was the other one you used? You said, Neil, Eric?
I don't know. I talk so much, I just forget what I say when I'm talking. I have to go back in the video. Intellius, Truthfinder, Spokio.
Intellius used to be something that I used before I hit the main databases, because $21 a month, unlimited searching like 20 years ago was awesome.
Yeah.
And because they have so much there, because they market to the general public, you don't have to have any special licensing to get it. They actually do really good on cell phone busts. So their cell phone data is impressive, but I don't subscribe to them anymore, but that's the only one company that markets to the general public that I would ever say would be worth spending money on. So I found so many people, people that just changed their cell phone number like the day before and went to Intellis, and there it was. And it just doesn't get better than that. So
Michael, I wanted to add too, just one piece of, I think, valuable information. The databases are great, and we can both talk about databases, but I think the real tip of things is getting on the phone. That's where you're going to get real time, up to date information is really, really getting on the phone. And I have a lot of associates that I've had come in, and they love to do database search, and they'll sit there all day. They don't pick up the phone. They don't make money. And it's just the way it turns out. So I can hire people, and they can be on the databases all day long. And there's some really valuable information there, but it needs to be either you find your information right away in the databases or very soon. But getting on the phone is the real power of skip tracing, because that's always going to be, you're always going to get, databases are tools, but getting on the phone, that's where you're going to get the value 99% of the time, I think.
I think that's true. I'm a little different because I don't necessarily want a debtor to know that I found them, so they don't hide a vehicle that's sitting in the driveway. But for every other situation, Eric is specifically top. He's right on.
That's awesome, you guys. I know we got to wrap it up here. I do want to ask this one last question, and then we can have just kind of closing argument from each of you. Let's see here. Give up on a case. Oh yeah, this is a really good one. So what goes on in your head when you decide it's time to give up on a case, that the time you spent in the case is just not worth it anymore, your time to profit ratio? We'll start with Valerie on this one.
I never stop looking for someone unless somebody else repossesses the vehicle. Any contingent work that I get stays with me until the vehicle's repossessed, even if it's by somebody else. So I might need to wait a while because that person is, when they very first skip, somebody else is paying for the bill. If somebody else is putting everything in their name because the debtor hasn't done anything and there's nothing in their name, you have to wait a while for them to feel confident about where they've just moved to, and then they start to apply for credit and do other things that they need to be able to live life, and then put their information in a database. So it's just a matter of time. Sometimes I'll wait a month to 6 months. I have a stack that I've had for a year that I systematically go through like every 2 or 3 months. And then out of that, like, there's probably maybe 60 of those accounts. And then so maybe 10 out of 60 out of that bunch, I'll find new information for. It won't necessarily get me a vehicle, but it's new information. So that's
good.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, but we'll same question to Eric.
Sorry, can you repeat the question more? Oh, the time spent in the skip tracing. With me, it's a little different, just because, like I said, we have a lot of files, and it's
industry thing too.
What was that?
I think it's kind of an industry thing too, because I'm thinking about a repossession. Like, they're going to keep their car until it gets repossessed.
It is an industry thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. With me, with the places of employment, sometimes we have clients that want it done in 30 days, and we'll do what we can. But most of our clients, we have a client in Colorado it's all garnishments, and they we still have files in the system from 2 years ago, and that not because we couldn't find them. It's probably because they just weren't working at the time, and it's frustrating because sometimes we'll review the file a month later, and they had a job for a little while, and then they left us a few months later. But that's always it's very frustrating sometimes when we look at their Indeed resume and they've updated it and they had the job up until 2 weeks ago, and they had it for like 2 months or 3 months, and we could have found it, but we just didn't hit the file. But either way, we'll hit those. We'll keep files in the system until the client either they pay, they die, or they file a little morbid, but they file bankruptcy. But overall, when it comes to time spent into a file, I will have my not collectors, but I'll have my skip tracers. I'll have them be discriminative over a file. I tell them to hunt for the money. Don't treat every file the same. You have a 60-year-old, you have a 30-year-old, and the 30-year-old is posting their life story on Facebook, and the 60-year-old maybe posts, although this can easily be in reversal, but these days, but the 60-year-old posts, once a week. Spend more time on the one that's posting every day. But be discriminative over the files. You can, we want you to get the money. We want you to skip ahead to the good parts. We want you to be discriminative over those files. But really, when it comes to time management, it's when we've exhausted, and for us exhausting our methods, like I said, we could spend all day, every day on a file and maybe eventually find it, maybe, but having hundreds and sometimes thousands of files, skip online, we pursue leads. If we have leads from those skips down the rabbit hole, but not too far down, we get on the phone, we rip through the numbers for the person, sometimes the relatives as well. And then we might if we get some leads, we might go a little further, but because of the numbers and the numbers our clients expect from us, we do our quick skip, we do our calls, we do another round of calls, we might go over it one more time, we move on. And sometimes we'll keep it in the system, sometimes we'll release it back to the client. But it all comes down to time management and how much time to profit ratio is what really, when you're dealing with like a large bulk of files. But you're right, it is an industry question. So, but Mike, my car actually blew its transmission, so I have a ride waiting for me right now, and I do have to get going, unfortunately. But I am interested in doing this again.
Okay, we'll plan it here and maybe next Wednesday. Thank you so much, Eric, for coming on, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
So Valerie, I just want to thank you for coming on as well. I mean, this is you're always quick and willing to come on and to help other people. And so Eric is I've been learning a lot from him for POEs. I know I learned a lot from you. And so I think that's what's key in this industry is you take some time, learn from one person, you go to another person, and they just build on your knowledge. I'm curious, who are a couple of the mentors or people who you feel like you've learned from? I've already interviewed on the podcast, and I just want to drive in a little deeper. Have you met Michael Bazell or any of these people, or who's your mentor?
I've talked to Michael Bazell in email a couple of times. I talked to him whenever he decided to go ahead and put the list of the most useful websites out of his book onto the website, because it was a list that changed all the time. And like some sites would be down or defunct or change the way they worked. And he, had to keep up with the list on his website versus people who bought the book. So he made them available. And so that's why he began to do that. And so he sent me an email saying, you can put that up on your website, on the Daily Skip if you like. And then so he actually followed me on Twitter for a while, and I was just like, oh my God, he followed me on Twitter. And then he got Bazell got the Mr. Robot series. It was a consultant on the very first season, although I don't know if he worked on subsequent seasons. He's with a couple of different conferences, and his classes are in the thousands to attend.
Wow.
And it is my life goal to be able to make it to one of them, because I can only imagine what he has to teach in person. So, but I do buy all of his books, and I'm very interested, and I want to suggest to anybody who visits his site to get interested in all of the API processes where you would put up your own, web page and use API to subscribe to, like I use PIPL, and he shows how to use it. All of the graphs that he has on his site, He gives all the code in his books and possibly on his website how to set up your own. And I think that's really important for a lot of in-house, collection agencies. And like I talked to a really big forwarder, and he told me that his company was interested in hiring me to teach their people how to skip trace, and that they want to lean towards anything that's free. And I'm thinking, well, that's such a not a good thing, because you're not going to really find a skip. You're wasting man hours because you're not allowing them to use powerful data that's credit and collections information. They're wanting to use all of that, internet free, open based OSINT data, which isn't, you shouldn't dismiss it, but in my opinion, that's not where I would put my skip tracers. I would put them into strong databases first that are producing results, because that's what puts a car on the hook. And you want to be able to serve more papers in an hour, repossess more cars in an hour, and that's how you build your revenue. So, but on the quest for getting all of the free websites together where you can get information, the common denominator for that list always goes back to inteltechniques.com.
Yeah.
So, but
So I want to leave it to a couple of these people who have stayed on this whole time. Valerie, if you don't mind, I'll read some of their questions to you and field some of them.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll wrap it up here. Let's go here. So Michael Santos says, are you both private investigators, or what licensing or certification do you have to obtain to do what you do?
Okay, for process server, in almost every state, there is some type of certification, which you want to be certified. For repossessions, it's quite possible in most states that you would be able to get a certification. For me, I am a debt collection company. So I formed as a debt collection company because the bonds are affordable, the insurance is affordable. I have $100 a year collection bond on file with the Secretary of State of Texas, and I get my bond from suretybonds.com.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, you would ask for the $100 no credit check collection bond. And there are some states where it costs a little more than $100, but it's still very affordable.
Yeah, it's
and
a
then,
good place.
Then you have the permissible purpose for collecting debt, and of course repossessions is enforcing a security interest. Then, of course, private investigations. And so there's 4 states where you do not have to be licensed as a private investigator. I know Mississippi is one of those states, and it's either South Dakota or North Dakota.
Okay.
I can't remember which, and the other 2 I've forgotten. But so, and then I can't think of anything else, but essentially, to protect consumers, all states are rolling towards licensing and regulation for each of these industries, and it only makes you look better.
That's
one, several.
So Valerie, I'm really excited because you and I have been talking for a while about creating a course, and now that I've kind of teamed up with Eric, I think I've learned enough to be able to contribute. And so between you, myself, and Eric, we're going to create this course. And what I'm really excited about doing is giving away this free basic course. I think it's going to be about 1 or 2 hours. First in total. Yeah, in total. I think it would be, we could get the basics out within 1 or 2 hours and make a lot of people happy. So Pete says, how do you keep up with job or house hoppers? Oh yeah, people that just leave one job, one house, go to the next.
People who skip out often. It helps to have access to a credit bureau, because that's the number one source of information. And like all the databases that we subscribe to, DelvePoint, TLO, IRB, FindMySkip.com, Tracers Info, IDI Core, and the list goes on and on and on. They all get information from different sources at different times. And I know you've heard me say it before, and like a broken record, but it's still true. It'll never change. But the Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and any other credit reporting bureau type, place that collects or gives a score for someone to determine credibility, to determine a deposit or what have you, like on a utility, they get information before anybody else does. So it only makes sense to structure your business so that you can have access to credit bureaus. So I get addresses off of Experian that appear many months before they ever do in TLO, Delve Point, or Clear, or any other place.
It's important to know where your information is actually coming from. And so I think that's what I'm taking from what you're saying. Is like you can pay for Delve Point and kind of play this. I feel like a lot of times we're playing the brands, Delve Point, and you get to what people say is usually what they use, and they're like, "Oh, you need to use this one." Well, where's the data coming from? And so if you understand that a lot of it comes from the credit reports, then you're a step ahead.
But I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but the credit bureaus, new information, like if I go to a Dodge dealership today and apply to buy a Dodge pickup truck, I put a new address, a new phone number, a new job down on my credit application, and they pull my credit and I get to buy the truck or not. It doesn't even matter. All that information is pulled into whatever credit bureau gave them my FICO score. So that credit bureau has Valerie's super fresh, ultra brand new information. They're not going to sell that information to tracers, Delve Point, IRB search. They're just not going to. Look at that. Look what I got.
Look at you. It's swag, IRB swag.
Swag from a conference. So it takes time. And I had this discussion with somebody else about Clear bragging and saying that they have real-time Experian data. They do not, because Experian and CEO told me when I asked him, okay, so Clear says that they have real-time data. So if they do, I'm going to kill my subscription and just go with them. And he said, Valerie, and of course, that's not how the conversation really went. He said, Valerie, we would never create competition for ourselves. We hold on to new data for 2 years before we sell it. That means my new information, if I never apply for anything else or use my new information where I live and stay for any other thing, they won't get that new address, new job, and new telephone number and new anything for 2 years. So that means I'm special and that I've done the right thing by forming a collection agency to do what I do.
Well, I'll tell you. So we have some other questions on here, Valerie. I think I know the answer to some of them, but I want to put it to you. Okay. Jeremy says, do you like Experian better than Equifax?
That's regional. Both Experian and Equifax are very good for the Southern United States, but Equifax is more utility. And then Experian has always marketed to mom and pop businesses. They're more affordable to obtain. They also, up until about a year or so ago, allowed a business to report one delinquent or negative credit account at a time instead of having to bulk upload, a minimum of 100, which made it easier for mom and pop businesses to put their accounts in, and it made it much more valuable for us on the subscribing end to find the new data. So while it's not that way anymore, they still are. I still think they're a leader for Southern United States, and that also they do not withhold work information on their skip trace reports. So there's a credit bureau and a skip trace report. So at Experian is Collection Advantage and their regular credit report. Equifax is their skip trace database is called First Search. And I had them for a long time, but they will not put in any work telephone numbers because they also own the work number, where they own, the work number. So they filter all the POE information out to yet another product that you have to pay $40+ for to get that info. So I really like Experian for that. It's not only is it more affordable, I probably pay about $100 a month. I'm getting more information than I would than with Equifax, and also Experian caters to residential, like resident check, tenant check. A lot of apartment complexes pull Experian because it seems to be more complete. And that, of course, goes back to them allowing mom and pop businesses to upload or report derogatory credit reports one at a time.
That's good. So what I want to do is just to wrap it up here. As I'm wrapping it up, if anybody has any comments, I'm actually monitoring Facebook too. Comments. Sorry, I took one from Facebook. If you have any comments, you can leave them on Facebook, and if you do it in time, I will. We will ask them of Valerie. Let's see here. So, but I do want to say, what if you guys, now that we're wrapping it up, if you guys want to go to PSD University, I'll go ahead and put the link in here. I'm really excited to be able to bring these guys this knowledge that they're imparting to you guys. University.com. So Valerie, what are some of the basics that you want to include in this basics course, you think?
Well, I think that how to structure your business, who your target is, for clientele is important. I think that somebody should consider reaching out to more than one sector, which would be vehicle repossessions. There are a lot of cars out for repo. And just because the economy is good doesn't mean there's any less cars going out for repo. It means they're nicer cars. When people and the economy is better and people have more money to spend, they don't spend any less, they spend more. And these lien holders want their vehicles back more than they want a hoopty back. So it makes specialized skip tracing more valuable. You might want to start low with your fees, of course, but I mean, I've been doing it I'm rolling into the month where it's actually my 22nd anniversary, and I just can't imagine doing anything else. So.
Well, I'm excited because what you just said was it just makes so much sense. So as a process server, a private investigator, we're searching for someone almost as an add-on service. Mm-hmm. And we don't really make a whole lot of money usually doing it. You can make volume, I guess, right? But it's more of an upsell. What you're talking about and what this course is going to help people get started with is setting up an additional branch, additional service that you offer, whether it's and maybe this is investigation. So a lot of private investigators already kind of dabble in this, but this can help you get started and actually, because I remember on our podcast, you talked about, and we talked for like an hour after the podcast interview about the different ways you can get set up, whether it's the different marketing techniques that you can use to find these car dealerships and these banks and these things that will hire you. They're like, yes, we didn't know there was another person that would do this for us. We've been waiting for this other person to do it. And then Eric, that is, he just lives and breathes finding where people work. And so I'm really excited to be able to take those two different concepts and apply them to the skip tracing world. What do you want to say to go ahead and close this out here, Valerie? And then we'll go ahead and close it. It's been a long, long day.
So I don't have any really earth-shattering thing to add, but thank you for having me on. If you have questions, leave them in the comments for us all, both Eric and I. So
yeah, let me check here again and see if there are any more before we close.
I guess I could also say that I know a lot of private investigators a lot of my lien holders have hired PIs, and the PI said, or the lien holders told a PI, I'll give you $2,000 to have this truck on my lot within 48 hours. And they did it. That was it. A vehicle that I couldn't find for a year. A private investigator knew how to talk to someone, knew how to talk to the neighbor, knew, boots on the ground, how to flush out leads, and may have even had other resources that I know nothing of. And they found the vehicle and had it. And I was like, man,
$2,000. That's nice lunch.
Yeah, and half of my client got their vehicle back before it was totaled because, that happens. And,
That's awesome.
but, so you, for higher dollar collateral, you can name your price as a PI walking into a lien holder. There's plenty of finance companies local, and they will pay.
So someone asked a question here, Mike Santos here. He said, are you a PI, you a collection agency that empowers you to do auto repos? I guess what gives you the authority, I guess, is kind of where that question, what gives you the authority to?
Okay. Auto repossessions is actually enforcing a security interest, which is collecting a debt. So all repossession companies are monitored or have to abide by the FDCPA and any finance code in your own state. So, yeah, they are collection agencies, and a lot of the repossession agencies actually take money for the lender, which puts them in a category of being a third-party debt collector. So that's it. But even so, regardless if you're a private investigator or if you are a repo company or just a collection agency, skip trace company like I am, if a lender hires you and gives you an authorization to repossess, which is a form that they sign, and like in Texas, it's supposed to be notarized, you become an agent of that lender. So that is your authority to repossess the vehicle.
So one guy says, that's some really good stuff. I think that really clears it up. So we'll close it with this one because I think it's funny. What's the best way to get away from a bill collector?
Don't answer the phone.
Don't answer the phone or the door.
Traditionally, bill collectors don't necessarily come to the door. I mean, there's just too much debt out there, and just nobody loves to work that much. I don't think that it's outside of a repo company knocking on your door. Debt collectors won't. So, I mean, just block their number. You can always search on the dirty phone book or on 800 notes, a phone number that calls you, to find out who's calling you, and then just block it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. No, I when it comes to process serving, small claims and these different things, it's not a misdemeanor to evade service. It's a misdemeanor if you can prove they're evading service. But if they're going through the general their day and they just decide, I'm going to stay home today and play video games and just not go outside or not answer the door, there's nothing you can do but wait. So
yeah,
good stuff.
I mean, I've had a process server camp out in my driveway before, and I was actually playing video games in the living room. And I was like, go away. And I've got on one of these computers that won't turn on somewhere, I have a video of a guy who knocked on my mom's door for hours, and he pissed me off. I'm like, I'm not answering the door. My mom is an elderly lady, and she was actually asleep in her room, and I was at her house, right? So I got my video camera and I stuck my video camera up to the peephole, and he pulled out a FLIR. What is that called? Infrared. He held it up and he said, "Oh, I see you standing there." I went off. I was like, what the bleep? I opened the door and I said, "What you're doing is a felony offense." And I was like, look,
you got served.
And I got him on video.
So what happened?
He left. Well, actually, it was just a lawsuit about a pipe breaking in this condo. Okay, so the condo that I'm in right now, my water heater blew up and flooded the downstairs neighbor who just moved in and had no insurance of his own. So my insurance denied his claim and said, you should have your own insurance. So he did sue, but I was at mom's house. And since this condo happened to have been in her name at that time, they were suing her. So he had the little FLIR infrared thing. I wrote about it on the Daily Skip, and I put that video up on YouTube. And he apparently complained, and YouTube took it down. So, but I do have it somewhere on a card. It's hilarious.
It is hilarious because he was a good server. That's exactly what we do as process servers. We're going to do if you think we're breaking the law and it gets you to open the door and I get to serve, that's
Yeah,
exactly
he's
the
like,
goal.
oh, I see you standing there. And then I actually called the guy on the phone. My office is around the corner. I called the guy and I made him come to my office, right? I said, okay, show me the thing you had. And he pulled it out of his pocket and it was about the size of the cell phone. This was about in 2010. I said, okay, how much did you pay for that? He's like $8,000, but it paid
Oh.
for itself like in the first week. I said, shut up, really? So you actually get people to open the door by saying, I see you standing there, and they really are, because he can see their heat signature on his screen. Shut up, Lila.
Oh my gosh.
So that was Star Process or something like that. And the guy sold his company, and I can't remember his name. He turned out to be a really nice guy, but it did happen exactly that way.
Well, you could win the heart of any of the roughest, gruffest person. So,
oh, I cussed him out. It was fun.
yeah, that's great. That's a great story. So, Valerie, I appreciate you coming on this this face off. I think you and Eric both. It was a fun way to promote it, and a lot of people came. And I hope everyone goes and gets takes advantage of the free course. And I look forward to working with you on the course and the other stuff that we have going on.
Good deal.
I'm excited.
Thanks, Mike. It was a great time.
Thank you too. And everyone go to thedailyskip.com. Valerie has a book coming out. Wiki, I shouldn't be telling you this. Skip Trace Wiki.
Skip Trace Wiki. I shouldn't be telling you this.
So what's the? Let me type it in here so people can click on it. It's will it be on the Daily Skip?
It will be on the Daily Skip. Yes, as a matter of fact, pre-sales will go up on the Daily Skip about the last week of October or the first week of November. So you can actually buy a copy, and as soon as the printer delivers, they'll get shipped out to you first thing. And then, I think that I'm going to do private sales for about a year, and then I'll go put them up on Amazon. But I decided that because of the type of information that's in it, that I don't necessarily want the general public to buy it and have access to it on Amazon. And if I see the very first used copies go up on Amazon, then I'll probably sell them through Amazon. But that is so proprietary that it should be not pushed out into the general public. So
yeah, I think it is almost better that you do keep it in a course. A book version of it, you put it out there, and most people are Skip Trace Wiki. That's the thing, is that you type Skip Trace into Google and you get a movie. You don't get anything else really.
Oh, yeah, it's true. So the other thing is the beginners aren't going to get it. And I got a lot of feedback from, as we talked about before, Skip Trace Secrets. That was for beginners. This is not for beginners. This is for people who have a clue and have already been doing it for a short while and have some real, problems to solve. And so
Skip Trace Secrets is Valerie's book. Her first one for beginners. So if you haven't gotten this one yet, go get this one, and then when the other one comes out, you can get that one. That was it. So if you already get this one now Valerie, if they read this one, is this one going to prepare them for the next one?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have no clue, if you have no experience at all, and like if you're a first-year process server, I know that I talk about a lot of these situations and pre-techs that I do, as opposed, in the situation where it's a repossession. But if you need help to think it through, to apply it to what you do, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to consult with you and explain it to you so that you understand it. But that's the number one thing, is to be able to take that, or to take a little piece of something that I explain or tell you that I did in the past, and apply it to something that you need to do or want to try. So I'm totally available if you want to bounce an idea off of me or need help in figuring anything out.
Perfect. Valerie, what is the best way for people to contact you? You want them to go to your website?
Yes, actually that is the very best, because it goes to my email directly.
Perfect. Well, thanks again. And I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. And we're going to kill it. We're going to do another face off, and maybe we'll have, maybe we'll get Michael Bazell to come on.
Oh my God. That'd be so awesome.
That's what I've been working. That's what I've been working on. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You're a groupie. I'm going to tell him you're in love.
I'll send him an email too.
Yeah, tell him, come on the PSD University. We're going to do lots of Facebook stuff here on skip tracing. We're going to dive deep into skip tracing world, and it might have to get pretty exclusive because, like you said, a lot of this stuff you don't want everybody to know. So,
yeah, I mean, the general public shouldn't know to the extent of the things that we do. It's none of their business. It
right.
should be more, some guarded secrets need to stay secrets. I mean, Eric Neal said it best, I think, that he would never tell everything. Anytime that I've ever talked about something that was like a way to reverse engineer like a state website that gave information, almost immediately it was gone. And it was because I talked about it in a video or in an interview. And it was like, damn, now I can't even do it. So, it's just I'm the one, whenever you drive under the street lights on the highway, the freeway lights, and they go out, that's me. I'm the one that make the lights go out.
Dang. Value bombs galore. So I'm excited. I know that Server Nation is excited, and PSD University is still in its infancy. So I'm excited to see it just blow up. It's going to go nationwide, and one of the reasons I just want to say, because there's a lot of other really good platforms and associations and things like that out there, but one of the reasons is I believe in utilizing technology above all else, and networking, right? We got to get out of the Stone Age. And Valerie, one of the things I love about you and Eric is it's like, hey, let's see how we can use technology to move us into the next generation and make some money. Let's make some money doing it.
Yeah.
So Valerie, take care. Stay safe out there and keep skipping.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.